Hello. The following is a video presentation to be used as notice to the public and as part of an official complaint to the Judicial Council of Canada. I find that it's easier to oftentimes speak than to write, and I have a number of functions I wish to fulfill. One of them is to bring to the public's attention the actions of one judge recently, and to also bring that to the attention of the Judicial Council. I'm hopeful that doing so will, by bringing to the public's attention what this judge has done, cause them to also file complaints or to speak out in support of this one. I'm also hopeful that the Judicial Council will not simply bend to the public will or public pressure, but that they will see by this action just how shocking to the conscience and the public community at large it is. I'm sure they will also receive much support from those who are fully behind this judge and who, misunderstanding the free man movement completely, seek to shut us down without ever discussing any of our ideas with us. This court case was shocking to me for a number of reasons, the greatest of which is that he seems to be trying to use the rules of court to justify bringing charges of civil contempt against what is essentially political activists who examine the source, nature, and limits of judicial authority amongst other government authority, and it seems like he wishes to silence us in order to achieve that. The threat to arrest people for speaking in public and discussing the role of the judiciary should not be a punishable occurrence. It scares me, I think, when the justices and the courts claim that questioning their authority is grounds for jailing someone for contempt of court. I believe that Canadians enjoy the right to advance any ideas, and the free man movement does not advance ideas which could be deemed as seditious or violent, even though there are parties who try to paint us as people who are anti-government and violent and believe the laws are above us. For the record, we are not. We're not anti-government at all. That's what people who I believe wish to denigrate our position in order to essentially engage in an ad hominem attack seek to do. We are pro-good government. And people take that, twist it, and claim it's anti-government. They say we claim we are above the law. We do not claim we are above the law. It is our belief that the people in the government, including this judge, is not above the law, and therefore they are bound by the rules of equality. His words could have the effect of attempting or be seen as attempting to chill or silence public discussion concerning the judiciary. And that is offensive to Canadians, and it brings the administration of justice into serious disrepute. If you can't handle examination, then we've got to wonder whether or not you're really fulfilling your office and your duties to justice. In his actions, in his reasons for judgment, I was of the opinion, and I believe it is the duty of the judge, to rule on the issues brought before him based on the evidence provided. He decided to establish reasons which existed well outside of any claims made before him. It was not a part of the issue, and he relied on information which was essentially defamatory information published anonymously on the net by those who believe that we are anti-government. It was, in a sense, defamation with extreme malice from the bench against someone who has political beliefs which question his authority. It denied due process. There were no charges. There was no trial, and he essentially labeled myself and a number of others as gurus, then con men, and then parasites. He did all of this with no information brought before him by any of us and without us receiving any notice that he was going to be deciding on these things. It is in effect an opinion expressed from a position of trust and authority with a fair amount of malice, and it is a shocking abuse of judicial authority and the trust that the public places in him. He has no right to call anyone in Canada such horrific things which are alleging criminal activity from the bench with no charges brought before him. He employed an extensive amount of circular logic in order to claim the right to decide issues which affect him directly because he's the authority on it, and who decided whether or not he's the authority? Why, he decided that, and he could decide it because he has the authority. He pointed to a number of judgments and rulings which had very little to do with anything that I am engaging in, and based on that, tried to claim that my actions were criminal in nature because they are apparently fraudulent, or that I know that I'm selling information which is false. One of the biggest problems I see is that he spoke of trusting us, or us trusting him to come before him and he would protect our rights. But one of the greatest rights enjoyed by Canadians, the foundation upon which all other rights rest, is the right of equality. And he has denied that equality by claiming a level of authority that does not rest in any way, shape, or form upon the wishes, the will, or the consent or intent of the public. He essentially claimed that he's our babysitter regardless of whether or not we like it, and if we don't behave, and by behave he means don't question his authority, he will punish us. Canadians have a right to question the source, nature, and limits of government authority. We have a right to examine problems, discuss those problems, find solutions, and, if necessary, change the way in which we govern ourselves. And someone who enjoys such power from the status quo has no right to attempt to criminalize those who seek to lawfully, peacefully create positive change. He resorted also to childish taunts and dares, essentially to come to court and argue these points. But since the point is the source, nature, and limits of government and court authority, going to the court to do so does not seem very logical, and it would appear that he secured these dares by reading some of the forums out in the public, specifically the Randy forum, within which there is numerous examples of what is nothing less than defamatory comments. Of course, there's a lot of that on the internet. But for a judge to look at that and to claim that these postings prove that the public is against the freemanry and that it goes against the public's will, without examining the other hundreds of forums out there where people do discuss the problems of the judiciary and propose different solutions, well, I think it's telling that he would go to such a forum. What, in short, he did was political action from the bench. And more importantly, what he intended to do was political action seeking to silence other political activists because he doesn't like their perspective. Either we have a right to share ideas which are not advocating or proposing violence or hatred, or we do not have the right to question the authority of the government. And that is not what Canada is about. I'm hopeful that regardless of whether or not you're a free man or not, the actions of this judge, you should read his reasonings and then look at how malicious he is with his judgment and how far he is operating outside the bounds of the issue brought before him. The sweeping judgments that he has made and the reasons he has given is attempting to squash proper political discourse necessary to our society and our country. So for the public, I ask that you look at his words and decide whether or not it is okay for you, from your perspective, that judges threaten political discourse by jailing us for civil contempt of court, using the rules of court, which are apparently supposed to only be used in court, and using those rules to try to claim that you are engaging in civil contempt of court by questioning his authority or advancing concepts which cause others to question his authority. Freeman or citizen or anyone, even if you are a protector of your society, This should be shocking to you that a judge would seek to reach so far outside of his bench, outside of his purview, outside of his province, and try to claim that he's going to clamp down on what is essentially a global movement of individual responsibility, equality, and a sense of family with each other. If you believe that it's okay for a judge to label you as a con man, as a parasite, and as a guru, merely because you are one of the more vocal and active political activists who seek a judicial change and a change in the fundamental way we govern ourselves, well then do nothing. Because eventually it might come to you. If you do not believe that it's okay for a judge to use the powers of his office entrusted to him in order to seek to silence political discourse of the way he exercises his authority, or us discussing the source, nature, and limits of his authority, then I would ask that you also send a complaint in, or send in a letter of support of this complaint to the Judicial Council and let them know that it is not okay for a judge to abandon the rule of equality. It is not okay for them to engage in malicious defamation against people without them ever being called into this court, facing charges or trial. I would ask also that you explain that childish taunts and dares are beneath a proper judge, and that seeking to silence political activism in the public forum from the bench because such activism is affecting his claim to authority is completely unacceptable. And I would ask that you ask them to remove him from the bench, as him on the bench completely erodes any public faith in the proper administration of justice, especially when he's engaging in defamation with malice, both on and off the bench, or potentially conspiring with others to do so. This following part is going out to the Judicial Council. I am withholding this from the public for now. It will be published in the event of my death or in 30 days, whichever comes first. Obviously, I'm hoping the latter. So, in the meantime, for the public who I do not want to see this information just yet, I will ask you to watch this video. Some friends of mine doing some cool stuff. Choppy chop chop, doing the editing.
We are born free. Babylon made the paper clone of we, yeah. An employee of Her Majesty. A split title in the right of use, but right never to be abused. Special license to move around. What about the common right to travel this ground? Oh, in your la la land, surely the fishman. I am the captain of my battleship. I'm a free man, and I walk this land. Through Jah comes my life, my guidance in my life. I am not a person, I am a man. I have a person, horse is the man, and I walk this land. Me, I'm a man, me, I'm a free man, and I walk this land. I'm not a ward of the state, neither a child of that sea. In this corporation that you call a country, and pretending to work for you and for me, yeah. Enforcing our full regulation at the barrel of our gun. The Prime Minister, the crime sinister, you're just another rule enforcer. A fake jurisdiction, is it the fake nation? Pure legal is in action, pure legal is corruption. Pure legal is in action, a pure legal is corruption. I'm a man, I'm a free man, and I walk this land. Through Jah comes my life, my guidance in my life. I am not a person, but I am a man. I have a person, oh says the man, and I walk this land. Me I'm a man, me I'm a freak man, and I walk this land. Me I'm a man, me I'm a free man, and I walk this land. Me I'm a man, me I'm a free man, and I walk this land. Now, case dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. Fake nation.
I tell you, I want to believe in our courts. I want to believe in our institutions. But it's very difficult sometimes when they seem to be operated by people who have such a level of arrogance that they think they can deny the public the right to speak about their actions. This part does not form a part of my complaint. However, I would like it to be seen as a public invitation to the Judicial Council of Canada to do the following with the people of Canada. I think this can be fixed. I mean, my purpose the entire time has been to establish dialogue so that problems can be identified and remedied in a peaceful, lawful, positive manner. I do not see how that can possibly be deemed to be criminal behavior. And people who would try to claim that such behavior is criminal, you gotta wonder. Here's what I suggest. I would suggest, and I ask the Judicial Council of Canada to contemplate this request, that we have a dialogue between themselves and the people of Canada, the public in general. Essentially, I call it the let's system. Let's get 12 of your best. We'll bring 12 of the best of ours, and then we can invite, although it's the freemen who are initiating this action, perhaps causing it to be created and convened, we'll bring 12 people who have never heard of the Freeman movement or who are dead set against it. But let's chat. Let's all get together. Let's have cookies and milk and chat. I think if we were to do this in a public forum, once we gather, let's care about each other. Let's actually bring people the respect and the dignity that all are due, regardless of their position within some sort of imaginary hierarchy of social standing. Let's care about each other enough to bring dignity to the table for others. Once we get there, let's find some common ground. We've got to have plenty of it. Let's find that, and from that perspective, that position, let's continue peacefully, and then let's build something better. We've got to do something because, as you have said, the free man movement, it's not just going to go away because some judge throws a hissy fit. I think the rule of law demands that we employ discussion first and foremost. And therefore, I am offering peaceful discussion to the Judicial Council of Canada and all members thereof, all people subject to their jurisdiction. Let's chat this out. We have questions, and nobody wants to come and talk to us about it. Years ago, 5 years ago, I extended an offer to discuss or debate any of these ideas. Nobody in the legal system wanted to step up to the plate. So let's have a chat. I think you'll find that we have a great deal of common ground. I think you'll meet people who do in fact care about this country, care about our rights, care about what we leave for future generations. I think you'll find within that common ground, and I think from there we can carry on peacefully. We can build a better something for the future, for ourselves, for the future. And I think there's room for the judiciary where freemen can be heard. But if your courts deny equality, there's no way we can ever find justice there. If your courts hear fictions, there's no way human beings who are not fictions are going to find justice when truth has fled and fictions rule. There's no way. We need a better way. And we've got to get there lawfully and peacefully. And that's what I'm offering. And all your judge is doing is presenting veiled threats of using the rules of court to bring charges of civil contempt for questioning his authority. I think we have a duty to do better. And this is an invitation to you to come forward and chat. Let's start with a chat. So members of the public, if you believe that a chat between the judiciary, the Judicial Council of Canada, and the public is a good idea, then I would ask also that you write a letter to them expressing that you believe it is a good idea and asking them to do so. We're willing to come to the table. I'm wondering whether or not they are. If they come to the table, I will bring loads of care and compassion and dignity, and I will look for common ground. When we find it, we can continue peacefully, and we can build something beautiful. But we need a foundation of equality. Thank you for your time and your consideration in watching this. I ask that you read the judgment and the reasons put out by John D. Rooke. I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce his name. Sorry, I don't mean any disrespect, John. And I ask that if you find that his actions are opprobrious and unacceptable to a Canadian public, that you let your feelings be known to the Judicial Council of Canada. I ask that you, if you believe that a discussion between freemen and the Judicial Council, or just people in general, be they freemen or not in the Judicial Council, is a good thing, I ask that you bring that to their attention. And Judicial Council, I ask you do your job with the honor and that I expect from you. And I've met some of you, and to be honest, meeting you filled me with both humility and hope. And I'm looking for some of that.